Hey friends, welcome back to the Happy Homestead. I'm Amanda and today is a exciting day here on the homestead, and that is because it is time to transplant some of the seedlings. So I've got 4 trays here. I'll show them all to you in a sec. 2 smaller ones like this and then 2 larger ones. And so my plants, these are tomatoes and cucumbers. They have got to be transplanted. In fact, I am most likely a little behind on this because my tomatoes, they look a little weak. They look a little spindly. And I think it's because they need more room. And tomato plants, if you look at some of the seedlings, right, they get really tall. And then down here, you almost see like these little hairs on the seedlings. And those are roots. Those are future roots trying to grow. And so you're gonna see that when I transplant these, I'm gonna be like putting a lot of this in the dirt and just really leaving the leaves up top. And so that's how I know I'm a little behind, is because my seedlings aren't growing as much as I need them to, considering they're gonna be put out in the garden in about, we're towards the end of March right now, I would say in about 4 to 5 weeks. And so I really have got to get these transplanted and get everything growing beautifully healthy. So I've got peppers, tomatoes, eggplant, some herbs, and then I also have some cabbages and lettuce that I just may direct sow out into the garden because I think it's safe to do so with those, or not direct sow, but direct transplant. So anyway, got a lot of work to do, wanted to bring you along. I'm just gonna take one type of vegetable at a time, and I'm gonna start with my tomatoes. So I've got 20 tomato plants, and I've got really big pots here. You can kind of see the setup, and so I'm not gonna be putting one tomato seedling in these. It's just, this is overkill, right? This is too big. However, I do think I can group and get 2 or 3 in here and really allow them to flourish. And so I've got a piece of paper that kind of lines up with what is what. I've got the Dr. White, I've got beefsteak, Borghese, a bunch of types of aromas, right? So I'm gonna try to organize these a little bit, but I'll be putting at least 2 and sometimes 3 seedlings in each of these pots. So I'm gonna get started. So I'm using an all-purpose organic potting mix. So inevitably, because I label all of my seedlings, like I was showing you here on my paper, this always happens every year. I'm gonna do my best to kind of remember what is what as I put them and transplant them into these bigger pots. I really am gonna try to group them at least, right, to have at least all the aromas together. But inevitably during gardening season, during harvest season, I don't always know what it is that I am harvesting until it's like totally apparent, right? I'll be able to tell like what's aroma, what's a beefsteak, etc. But I always have the best intentions of labeling and knowing exactly what's what. But by the time it comes time to go in the garden or to do this portion, I'm just like, eh. So just bear with me, because I might be like, eh. So it's only in the low 50s today, but it's still great weather to do this. And plus it might even rain later, so I really wanted to get these done. All right, these 3 I'm gonna all put in one pot. These are a Borghese. Remember, I'm gonna go pretty far up here and get a lot of that stem in. And be very careful not to damage anything, but I want it to grow really strong roots. And this is how I know that I'm a little late here. Do you see how long the roots are already? Like seriously, these should have been transplanted at least a week ago. So gotta get this done so these can grow beautifully healthy. Now I try to really get a good hole in there with my fingers so that the roots aren't being crammed, right? They have room to really kind of go down as much as possible. And then you can see, right, it's really just at the dirt level, these leaves. There's more of those really long roots. Tomatoes really like to be transplanted deep into the soil, like I said, so that they can grow those wonderfully healthy, strong roots. All right, so I am just going to continue down this path with all of these tomatoes, kind of grouping them as best as I can, and then we'll move on to something else. So I've got all the tomatoes done. I kind of tried to group them, like I said, as much as I could. I'm very pleased I didn't have any breakage or root damage as I was transplanting. You do want to be very careful. I used just like a little tool that came with one of my seed starting kits to first kind of make that hole and then to help guide the roots down either with this or my finger. A pencil works really well too, especially a pencil that has a blunt tip or even not sharpened at all, right? A brand new pencil. I've been known to use that as well. So I'm going to set these aside and we're going to move on to the next thing. I am going to water everything at some point. I just want to get more seedlings done before I go get the watering can. But like I said, it's in the 50s. It's not going to freeze tonight. I think it's going to be in the high 40s. I've been doing a little hardening off, and what that means is that when you have your seedlings, you know, most people have them inside in a greenhouse under a grow light of some sort, but you need to start bringing them outside. You need to start exposing them to the natural elements. However, you don't want to do it too soon. You really want to wait until your seedlings are pretty hardy. And then also you don't want to put them in any really harsh temperatures. So whenever we had beautiful days, I was constantly bringing my seeds out. So they've been doing the hardening process for a few weeks now, honestly. But then I would bring them back inside at night. So tonight I'm going to leave them out. And I should be able to leave them outside really for the next few days, day and night, just to really get good growth and get the hardening off process going. Okay, next I'm going to do cucumbers and eggplant. I've got 8 cucumber plants that, again, looking a little iffy because they have outgrown their cells. So I'm just going to put 2 per pot. And then I think I've got 8 or 9 eggplants to do in the others. So same process as before. Oh yeah, you see all of that. Now all of these seedlings I started about 5 to 6 weeks ago. Now, these are in the smaller cells compared to these pots, right? So the ones in these pots, I can tell you have done a lot better than these smaller cells. It's just that I had ran out of the bigger pots when I was starting my seeds. But these black pots here and then these bigger ones, these are all from Bootstrap Farmer. I invested in a lot of this 2 years ago, and I'm really happy I did because I can see a difference with the seed starting, and it just helps prolong the transplanting period compared to these smaller cells. Now, unlike the tomatoes, you don't have to put these as far down on their stem, but I still recommend going down a little bit so that you're getting as healthy of a root growth and strong of a plant as possible. All right, I want to pause for a minute. These are tomatillos. They're great growth, really healthy, but they're still pretty small, right? And they're in these smaller cells. So what I'm gonna do when I transplant my eggplant, which are in these bootstrap farmer pots, they're about 2-inch deep pots, which by the way help for really good root growth. I am going to transplant my eggplant into these and then transplant my tomatillos into these pots. Now because these plants, like I said, do have deeper pots, they've got better root growth, I actually took half of the dirt out of here and then I can put it in like this and then just fill around it. All right, now on to the peppers, both sweet and hot peppers. With peppers, these, by the way, again, I can't recommend these bootstrap farmer seed starting kits. I mean, I am really pleased. Just comparing the health of the plants in these pots compared to the ones in these cells, right? It's night and day. So I didn't do all of them in these because, like I said, I didn't have enough when I was seed starting, but I have since purchased more. So next year, everything is going to start in these pots and then over time can transplant to the bigger ones. So on to peppers. Now, when any seed germinates, you get these first 2 leaves that come up. Here's an example, right? Like when any seed germinates, this is kind of what it looks like. And eventually you start getting more. It's a lot obvious on the tomatoes too. I don't think if I had anything else. The 2 leaves that first come up eventually die off, and this is a perfect example. You kind of see them yellow, wilty, right? And here's what's called the true leaves. So you can certainly pinch or cut off those dead leaves. They're kind of wilting out. They're gonna die. But with peppers, this is new. I have heard people do this. It works. This is the first time I'm doing it. You actually want to pinch off, or I'm gonna use scissors to cut off the top couple of leaves of the plant. Now you only wanna do this when your plant is about 4 to 5 inches tall, pretty well established. And so we're gonna do it on this one. This is like stressful, but here it goes. And what that does, and you only do this on your pepper plants, what it's supposed to do is create a much more bushier, productive plant rather than constantly trying to grow up. So now the plant is going to put its energy on certainly growing up, obviously, because it's still so small, but growing out as well. So I'm going to be doing this to all of my pepper plants, but I'm going to do it as I transplant them here. I want to show you this plant here. You see how we have like this green stalk and then almost like this purple base. I want to get anything that's that purple part under the soil line, because you can see this is going to be roots. So I've got all of the tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, and cucumbers done. I just have a few more little things to do, some herbs, some medicinal flowers and whatnot. But mostly the most important things that I wanted to get done are done. So what I want to leave you with or impart you with is that this is not a science. It's really about just trial and error, and every gardener, it doesn't matter how experienced, just beginner or been doing it for 20 years, every gardener is learning along the way. Every year is an opportunity to learn what to do differently. And so don't get discouraged. Please try not to get discouraged and think that you have to have everything perfect, right? It's kind of what I'd mentioned earlier. Done is better than perfect. You have got to get off the starting blocks. So if you don't have seeds started right now, that's okay. Just go to a local nursery, get your seedlings, maybe not at this moment, right? Wait till your last frost date is passed. Let them take care of them until that frost date is passed, and then get them and go get them in the ground and start learning, start growing something. I hope this was helpful. I'm really happy to have this job done. It's been, like I said, looming over me. So I'm gonna keep everything outside. I check the weather multiple times a day, just making sure that nothing is getting really crazy with wind, hail, torrential downpours, and of course freezing temperatures. But for the most part, these are going to stay outside for right now for the next few days, and hopefully harden up and grow really nicely. I'll keep you updated. Thanks for joining me today. Stay happy, stay healthy. Bye-bye.